Hi, this is Michael, and we're looking at the Stellar Lumens XLM chart. So I've gone even deeper into the analysis after considering the alternative, now my main view for Bitcoin. And so I decided to apply some way of thinking about this chart in a different way that kind of, you know, the Bitcoin analysis opened my mind a little as to what could be going on in this chart without just labeling something an expanded zigzag just because I know what that is. So to start off, I believe that the move up 2015, 16, 17, that was a weak wave one because we have overlap between, 4 and 1 and 2 type thing um, of the first move. But interestingly enough, Bitcoin would have been wave 5. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this could be a wave 1 and we're in wave 2 right now. So really, that being wave 4 for Bitcoin, this is interesting why, um, the market will always give you a second chance. It's just known to do that. And it can take a while, sure, but it seems to do it. So moving forward over here, as you can see, I've changed slightly the correction, and it actually makes a lot of sense. See, Bitcoin rallied from 2019. It created a big B wave. But in this, I believe it created a small B wave and the C wave down into 2020. And then the move up, I have considered it a zigzag pattern the whole time. And it can be a D wave. Could have been a B or a D. So I considered those possibilities. And then come to think of it, it makes sense because Bitcoin is in its last move down, even if it's going to be a big, long, sharp, deep one. And I believe XLM is also in its last decline. Now, more than likely, it's going to go pretty low. How low? I don't know. Previous fourth wave, maybe. That's always a good indication. So that would be down here. So, look, I understand that you may think this is too low, but I've been listening to a lot of these hearings going on recently, in about crypto, talking about FTX and the whole regulation conversation being had at the moment. I believe these are the uncertain times for cryptos, and I believe that the regulation, once it's settled and once it's done and dusted, I think the confidence will come back to cryptos and things will then get better in a way that brings clarity and makes them part of our system, part of the system, right? An official piece of the furniture. Anyway, so I have adjusted my count because as I do, I go into in-depth detail and I've gone even further on the wave E analysis. So this is the idea behind what I believe is going to happen. I've had a similar view before, but not quite the same. So it does work with the idea that in the end, the whole thing may look like one big zigzag pattern, right? And it would likely be looked back one day, in history as just having been a 1-2 pattern, a big bubbly 1-2 pattern that moved higher and then retraced back to previous wave 4 as these things do. Right, now looking at the subdivisions at the small degree, this is the part where I went super deep, very deep. Now, I did take a little bit from the Bitcoin analysis in terms of thinking, in terms of the pattern. Now, this one I believe is just slightly different for some reason, and I'll explain why. So not only did this start falling before Bitcoin did, I believe that a little bit more of the correction has happened during during the same time period, except this one started falling a bit earlier, so May 2021, whereas Bitcoin started falling towards the end of the year of 2021. So there's one thing I remembered when I was first doing this analysis back here in this time, is I remember one specific wave standing out as strange to me, and it was the one I've got labeled A. It looked like a type 2 expanded, really strong, stressed out zigzag pattern, right? And that can definitely happen during these times of volatility. So the first wave, I've got it now marked where you could see the white lines where each wave ended. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we had A, and then the start of a B wave. So A, B, C. Okay. So that kind of adds to the idea that this weak move was sort of ending the B wave when it happened. Yes, it was a bit longer than the A wave, but that can happen. Now, moving forward, we had this type of move, which to me fits like a wave C. One wave only, wave C. Not a complete correction as I had in the previous idea, which is something that bothered me afterwards. So if something bothers you in your analysis and you feel like you did just wing it on that one, well, it'll bother you, and then you'll go back and you'll realize why eventually if you do the work. So A back there, B, C, and this particular wave here, I had to adjust slightly because it looks like a zigzag as well, right? And I had labeled this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here. And I thought, if I'm doing this, is that actually really like a full 5 wave move there? So I went a bit closer and I just noticed a couple of subdivisions that could make this possible. And I thought, okay, cool. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, right? Um, and then you've got a correction. So it's like A, B, C, and I believe this one came down D and E. Cool. So you got 1, 2, and then I thought, okay, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there? And then we've got a small wave 4, and then a 5. And I thought that must be what it is, because otherwise you've got a zigzag down here and a zigzag there, and no zigzag up here. So it makes sense. So I left it as that, a wave A, and then the rest of the pattern kind of stayed the same, and it ended up making more sense because in the previous idea, this was wave 4, and for a wave 4 to be that big doesn't make sense. But for it to be a zigzag seems much more legit. So that means that we are in the final move up for wave 2. Okay, wave 2 to end. The wave 2 that started back in May 2021. So there are two places I think this may go, potentially. Now, the first one is back to the end of wave 1, which would be a considerable rally back up to, I don't know, maybe 27 cents, right? Which seems like a good deal. But given how much this correction has expanded to the downside, is that realistic, right? It could be, maybe, maybe not. Now, just because we've seen this little move from the low start going higher, it doesn't mean that it's going to continue up in one straight line, straight 5-wave move. It may, but for some reason, I just have a feeling that it might slow down a little during the process. to correct and to perhaps become like a weaker wave, 5 wave move. And it may only reach this dashed line that is um, the end of each correction. So wave A, C, A and C, right? And could this line could provide the resistance for wave E. So I'm just leaving it in the middle now because nobody knows. But it's interesting to see how this dashed line interacts with the whole move. Have head and shoulders here. We've got resistance here, and yeah. So this is what I think is happening here. We're going to get wave 2, and then we're going to go down in wave 3. And as we do that, we'll most likely create, like I said before, something that looks like a zigzag pattern. Okay, not because it is a zigzag, but to the naked eye at a larger degree, it may end up looking like one, right? So that's whatever, that's fine with me. But looking closely, I can see a 3-wave move, a little mini 3-wave move. This move here was interesting to see because wave 3 couldn't be the shortest. So when I looked at the first part, I noticed that the actual wave 1 ended slightly before the low, and then you have corrective A, B, C, D, E was a sharp move up, and then the wave 3 occurred. So there was no rule broken at a very fine detail, like by a very small amount. So that's good. So that kind of made the wave C idea legit. So yeah, both Bitcoin and XLM are in wave E, and wave E's can be pretty nasty and brutal, but then you get the turnaround that you have been waiting for. So hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. Thank you for watching.